And that lifetime could be here on Earth. It could be in a parallel universe like this one, but in another place. Everything that's happening in our journeys is happening right now. There's no such thing as past lives from the perspective of the soul. The human part and the egoic part sees that because it thinks linearly. The soul sees it all now.
Welcome, James Newman. We're going to talk about your NDEs and also about what you've learned.
Thank you for having me, AJ.
Let's begin with your first NDE, shall we?
My first experience took place in 2005. I was living in Hawaii. I was very, very ill. I was homeless and living on the street and had just given up on life. A friend had sent me to a really amazing acupuncturist to see if that person could help me. I was very close to transitioning at that point anyway. And when I lay down on the bed, he asked me a few questions, but I was no longer present. And as he started to work, I found myself in the middle of the ocean. At that moment, all I could feel was a warmth and a protectedness, this strength that was surrounding me. It was something that I had never felt before. And in a few moments, I then began to feel as if there was some kind of movement, and the movement became a pushing. And suddenly I find myself coming, what seemed like a tunnel, coming out through a tunnel into the open ocean. And I could see myself, but I could see myself as an infant being reborn. And now I know this experience came about to wipe away a whole series of beliefs and veils and truths that I held in my own awareness about who and what I was and what this world was about. And I don't know the terms that people are using to express this. It's a partial transition experience. A few weeks later, I had what you would refer to as an NDE, and I know in reference to that in this moment as well, it was that same awareness of all things, that same encompassing of this incredible love. But there was a specific reason for this first experience to occur, because as a child, I came into a family with parents who walked away, who put myself and two other children in the world and walked away. So there was this place of emptiness that was so encompassing in my person that I was not able to figure life out. It was part of the reason why I was homeless. And on that table, all of that was taken away. And I know that occurred on the level of my soul, that the soul took me to that place so that I no longer held to those beliefs vibrationally in preparation of what was to come a few weeks later. And so that was my first experience. Things continued to deteriorate, and that same person that had friends that had suggested that I go see the acupuncturist had me come to stay in her home and tried to help me, tried to take care of me as best she could. She was a nurse, but she's finally said, James, she says, I can't take care of you here. You're too sick. You need to go to the hospital. I agreed, so we went to the hospital. And they ran all kinds of tests to try and see what was wrong with me, and came to me and beside the bed and said, "Well, Mr. Newman, we think you have leukemia." So they put me into a room, and more days went by, and I just continued to feel myself slipping away. And finally, I transitioned. And that's when As I say to some folks, I said, that's when the magic began. Everything looked like the blue of the Pacific Ocean, and I could just feel that there were some people arriving, there were some people gathering, and there were some people leaving. And it was this, the only thing I've ever experienced like that is like a subway station, a big subway station or train station. And I immediately knew that I wasn't going to stay there either, that I was there to receive wisdom, there to receive what it was that I needed to receive to then be able to move on. While there, I had no awareness of where I might go or what might occur, but I knew that I was there temporarily. What I could see was that my soul, if it needed to take a form or have a description of a form, that it was a sphere, that there was a light in the very center of that sphere that was the life force of the soul itself, of my own soul itself, and that it kind of looked like a dandelion in that phase when you would blow the dandelion with the seeds, like these little white filaments, more than you can number. Somebody said, well, how many? I don't know. There was more than you could even count, about the number of stars in the sky. And what I learned was each one of the, I'll call them threads for lack of a different term, each one of those threads represented a journey or what someone might call a lifetime. And in that thread was recorded all of the things that were occurring. And in another one, another lifetime. And that lifetime could be here on Earth. It could be in a parallel universe like this one, but in another place. It could be in a different dimension, in a different vibrational form. And so all of this was being shown to me, and I was being shown how we have access to the wisdom that's being gathered on any of those journeys.
Do you remember any of these lifetimes?
One of them that showed something very distinct was I've always been good with language and translation in physical form. And this lifetime shows why. Because this experience shows why. Because I'm shown a scenario, and the scenario is what we might think of an old ship, not space, but an old ship, like in the 1600s with the big sails. It was literally a ship like that, except for it flew. It wasn't limited to the water. It could go in the water, but it wasn't limited. And I was asked to come, and then later found out forced to come to be with that crew because they were seeking treasure. And they knew that I could see beyond the physical form. And so I was taken onto that ship to assist them to find the things that they were looking for. And once they found what were looking for, I was like cast off. I wasn't cast off the ship, but it was as if I was shoved into the corner of the ship, and then suddenly I could feel like it was really cold and it was raining. And at that moment, even in the NDE state, I remember that. And when I came back in my physical life, I returned there. Meaning after I came back, and this was months, probably a couple of years later, I went there because during the NDE, there was so many layers of things going on. It's as if I was being shown these scenes, but there was this voice. Remember how this feels. Remember how being here in this state that you're in right now, that dandelion, if you will, that state, remember how that feels because you'll return here. There was all this going on, but yet that little bitty voice that keeps saying, remember how it feels. Remember how it feels. It doesn't matter what you think about it because that's just the illusion. Remember how this vibration feels. So I returned there at a time, and it's as if, literally, as if I reached my hand out to myself
Did you
in that
return
journey.
there? Did you return there physically in
In
astral
meditation,
or in meditation? Okay.
in meditation. Yeah, and that's the thing. People, that's something. There's so many layers of this that I can share with you. People talk about astral travel as if they're going out somewhere. That's an illusion. When you go into the state of the soul, you are going within yourself.
Yes, that's what I always say. I even say
Yeah, you're
near death
not
experience.
traveling somewhere. You're
Yeah,
not
it's
going,
an inner experience.
projecting.
The whole
You're
universe is
going
within us.
within us, exactly. And so I reached out to, it was a male figure as well. I reached out to him and I said, "Come, be here with me now. Be here and be safe now." So that's one of those connections that I said. Sometimes the soul will ask an aspect of you that's over here to come and be here now because there's safety or there's something needed to rebalance and reharmonize the energy. And when that happened, I could then see that that aspect of myself jump into the water and return home. But the water wasn't like the ocean. The water was where the soul resided for him in that journey. And so he returned home. So there was peace again. And that's just one of the places that I experienced that parallel situation. I mean, there's another one as I me as a child, a 9 or 10 year old child. Same thing that happened to me this time. And at that journey, I was um, a 9 year old boy, 10 year old boy, and it was during the United States Civil War of Independence. And I lived in the South just as I do in this lifetime, but yet we lived in a farm in a different area. It was never given clarity exactly what state it was, but I could tell by the sound of the voices and the accent that where I was. And my whole family had been shot. And I was the only one that got away because I knew they were coming. I told my father, I told one of my brothers, I said, "Go tell mom, go tell them they're coming." And they're like, "Who? Who's coming?" And then it was redcoats or whatever it was, and they had guns and the horses and stuff. And I ran to the woods and a place where I would play by myself. And only because I knew they were coming did I survive. But I ended up getting shot.
Oh,
And I got shot in the leg. And sure enough, and this was 7 years ago because it was right when I moved here, in the town where I'm living now. I started to develop, after that experience, I started to develop an infection in my leg out of nothing. I didn't have a bug bite. I didn't have anything at all. And then later it was shown to me, "We've sent you this here to heal because that little boy there needs to heal so he can continue on his journey." And so I did. I did what I knew with natural remedies and herbs and things. And in about 2 months, the my leg was healed.
okay. So
And
uh, continue.
no, and so that's part of the awareness that I gained um, about that interconnectedness, that everything that's happening in our journeys is happening right now. There's no such thing as past lives from the perspective of the soul. The human part and the egoic part sees that because it thinks linearly. So it thinks, oh, well, that was 1600 something. That must have been, that was a long time, 300, 400 years. Like, no, the soul doesn't see it that way. The soul sees it all now. So you can heal it now. And many times, things that are happening on another one of those threads, another one of those journeys, you're experiencing it here so that that healing can occur. But we have to get past of those truths and beliefs of what we think we know, that this is something past and it's over there. No, you can bring it right here. And that's part of the work that I do in sessions with people, is guiding them through that moment of bringing all of that forward right here, where there is safety, where there is harmony, and all those things, so they can heal those things. And when it's healed there, then the healing occurs here as well. Many other things were shown to me. The other was kind of, I guess, right before I was returning to the physical awareness. The last thing that that voice was telling me to remember is how deeply I am loved, because I needed to hear that to have any possibility to have the courage to continue forward in this physical life, because I was very, very sick, very, very ill. I had a bone marrow disease, but it wasn't leukemia. It was something treatable. And um, said, remember how deeply you are loved. And then all of a sudden, here's this, just this profound, and it was like the love, you could feel it in everything. No matter where you're focused, there that love was. So I returned to my physical awareness, but because I had been put in like in a like it not wasn't a bathtub, but it was in a container, and there was a tarp in it, and they had taken me out of the bed I was in and put me in there, and they were throwing ice and water because they said my body temperature had gone so high that they didn't think I would survive that. They didn't. And then the nurse told me later that if I did survive, she thought, you know, his brain will be fried and things like that. And sure enough, about a half a day or a day later, she came to me. I remember her coming to me with yet another pill for something. I don't know what, but they wanted me to take some medication, and she started asking me, well, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Apparently, during that time of my transition, I had gone and walked and faced the wall, kind of like the same point of view that I had in the train station, that I had physically gotten up out of the bed, but I have absolutely no awareness of it. She said, James, she says, you were so weak. She says, we didn't think you'd ever even get up to go to the bathroom. She says, I don't know how you got up to walk to the wall. And she said, you put your hand on the wall. And she said, do you remember that? And I said, no. And then I was so excited, I started to tell her the story about what I experienced. And then she kind of, I could tell by the look in her eyes that she thought that something had happened, that I had had some kind of disturbing experience, that my brain had fried or whatever. And so I shut down. I didn't say anything else to anybody about what I experienced. I was there in the hospital for, I think, another 2 to 3 weeks. And during that time, I guess a social worker or someone from the state of Hawaii, that's where I was living in Hawaii, had contacted social services through my social security number, and they tried to get in contact with a family member, anyone in my family member, because I couldn't stay in the hospital at that point, because they didn't think I was going to survive. And they got in contact with my biological mother, who I had never lived with. I had never, I had lived with my grandmother and my great grandmother and my two brothers from the time I was 10 or 11 months old. I had met her a few different times. I had contact with her a few times in my teenage years, but other than that, I didn't really know her. And so they said, well, we've contacted your mother and we're going to send you to her house. And I was shocked. I was like, no, I don't want to go there. I don't know her. I've never lived with her. But the universe had another intention because I went through a very interesting childhood during the first 10 months in with her. And having never experienced maternal love, the first transitional experience was to wipe away all of that emptiness from never having experienced that. And then now I was being sent back to her house so that I could experience those same vibrational things all over again. And people would think, my God, what an awful universe. But I no longer looked at it from the perspective of my own egoic mind. I could see every moment of her behavior through the perspective of my soul. And it allowed me to learn the profound lessons that were there to learn so that I could receive the wisdom in her presence. Because in the very beginning, I made an agreement to come into this life and experience it with her.
You present yourself as an intergalactic being. When did you realize this?
In the last 7 years, I had an awareness of that. I didn't talk about any of this to anybody because I didn't have the words. I didn't have I knew what had happened, but I didn't know how to express it. And so I opened my after I got well, I opened my own catering company, my business, and all this stuff, and continued to work. And 7 years ago, I just decided June of 2017. I thought, oh, just like my other business, when I was dissatisfied, just wasn't. It's like, okay, James, you felt this before. It's time to move on. You're supposed to be doing something else. And that's when I came here. And since I've lived here, I have given myself the opportunity and the time, only working part time and things like that, to go inward and really begin to reveal everything that was here to reveal to me. And one of the first paintings, like you see some of the paintings here that I do, one of the first paintings was of my home, of Nabayo in the Phoenician galaxy on the very edge of this universe. And I painted the picture, and as I painted it, the story was told of who I really am and where I came from, and that I am a star being, and that I'm here to assist humanity. I went through all that I went through to be able to now see the reality of who we are so that I could assist others at this time because our Mother Earth is rising up. She is rising in, she has finished her agreements with Source now, and she is rising up into her reality, into things of the perspective of her soul. And this earth as we know it will very, very, very soon transform. And only those who will align with her in her vibrational state will accompany her in that rising.
I have two questions. What can you tell us about your true self, that intergalactic being or star being? And what can you tell us about the near future of planet Earth?
Okay. Most importantly, I'm always guided. Thank you for that question because you're the first one that has asked about that. What I can tell you is that I'm from a star family called the Navajo people. And our original purpose and agreement for being here was to keep the passageways for wisdom between the dimensions and between the physical universes. There are five of them. There's this one and four more, makes a total of five. And yes, there are other worlds, there are other dimensions, but universes exactly like this one, there are four more. And so we were brought here to keep that passageway of communication. It's why I'm so good with language and the expression, be it in imagery. I can show you the book. This is the book of the script of my people. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. This is the script, the vibrational script of my people. And we exist in, do you know what murmuration is? You've seen it, may not know the word. If you've ever seen the flock of the
Yeah, when
birds
the
that
flock of
fly,
birds, yes, when they take murmuration,
they
murmur.
do, yeah, it's murmuration. So we exist in murmuration. All the millions of us exist in murmuration.
It's also what they
There are,
call quantum entanglement.
no,
Oh, okay.
no, no, this is something very different than that. There is, there is a murmuration. Um, if you watch the birds closely, they all move simultaneously, but sometimes in different groups and in different directions, but yet all harmoniously moving in that same spherical area. So we do this in some forms to um it's like a maestro in front of the orchestra. We're moving energy so that flow, that river of wisdom that passes between the realms can continue to flow so that nothing impedes it. Because each one of us that is here in physical form as a human on this earth is here for the sole purpose of gathering wisdom, for the formation of new worlds. Each one of us has gathered here to have the experiences we will have, with the people that we've chosen to have them with, and all of it for 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 our ascension and for our rising up. And every single event in our lives is of the light. There is no such thing as darkness. Darkness is the illusion of the ego. Only the egoic self would have our human self see something as opposition or as opposing. Opposition is an illusional perspective. There is nothing that opposes. The sun comes up, but when the sun goes down, the moon comes up. That doesn't mean it's dark. That just means there's a different light. There's a different form of light, but it is all light. You know, the equinox was yesterday, the real equinox. Yesterday, there were 12 hours of sun. The sun rose at six, at least where I live, at 6:32, and it set at 6:32. Was yesterday. It's not the weekend on the 21st that people are told, and they just go by what they're told. So we are here for this purpose. And something else that I'm always guided to share is that there are millions and millions of star families. There aren't just the ones that you hear most about, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Lemurians, and all these dozen or so. There are millions of star families, some of them with similar purposes, and some with very different, varied purposes, but they have all gathered now. The ones that are here in this universe have gathered around the earth now, and they are here for the sole purpose of assisting us in our ascension, for those who will allow themselves to set aside what they think they know and receive the wisdom of the reality of who we are.
So how
So
could you
that's my people.
go ahead? Go ahead.
No, no. I was
how
finished.
would you describe our near future based on what you just said?
Immensely, immensely transformational. And if we are afraid of change now in our human perspective, that will end some people. It will be such immense transformational change, and it's why there are star beings like myself that have in my family alone, there are 16 of us here on the earth, and of each of the millions of star families, many of them, I don't have numbers for other star families, but many of them have taken human form, so that they can come here and assist in people opening up their awareness to this reality of who we really are. So our mother, to shift to our Mother Earth, she, as a soul, agreed with Source during the creation of this universe, not the other four, but this one. She agreed to come here and be this earth, to be the food, the shelter, to be the water, the air, to be everything that we needed to come here and have our experiences. She would provide everything freely for us. And there have been times when humans lived in harmony with that giving and taking. They took care of the earth and she took care of them, and they evolved in amazing different ways. And our human experience, what science would tell us, is more or less the last 250,000 years humans have been here, but that's just one of the cycles. Humans have cycled through this earth many, many times over the billions of years that the earth has been here. Well, her time is finished. Her agreement with Source is completed. She has been this earth, this home for us for billions of years now. And she is going to rise up into her full expression. And I have a number of paintings here that tell this story. And she has agreed on this, and agreed at what point in her own evolution that she would then say, okay, I'm complete. And that time is now.
What do you mean by
So
her time is has finished? Is
you came to this earth with an agreement, right?
yes.
You came to this earth to be AJ Parr, to be right here and now, doing all the things, and you'll continue to do those things until it's your time to transition, right? Well, she's no different. She's a
Right,
soul
but
just like
do you mean she is near terminating her life?
transitioning time. No, there's no such thing as termination.
Well, but
No such
you're
thing as
saying that her agreement
she's
is
going to transition. She's going to
okay.
transition,
She's going
just
to
like
transition. I mean,
into her highest
she will
expression.
not be able to hold what we call life.
Oh gosh, she'll hold a more expansive life than ever before.
Oh, okay. So
But
it's
but she will but she will no, but she will only hold the life that is in alignment with her vibrational frequency.
okay.
She'll no longer be a home for wars and destruction. She agreed to do all that. She agreed to be here
Okay, so
and
it's
let humans
like a
come.
golden age then.
I don't know what you'll have to define golden age.
Well, it's a better than this one.
Well,
People talk
but
about
it
the
is,
ascension of Earth from third dimension to fifth dimension. People also talk about the age of Aquarius. People also talk about the new age. They are all religions and all spiritual paths have talked about a new and better era for planet Earth.
yes, yes.
Many have said that
So,
lower souls that who are not vibrating at the frequency at higher frequencies will be gone, and that those
yeah,
who vibrate in higher frequencies will stay. So that's more or less what I've gathered from different prophecies and
Sure.
different spiritual paths.
Well, they won't stay. What will happen is they'll ascend with her. But the dynamics through which she will express herself, people have no imaginings. Absolutely no imaginings. They're so another facet of what was shown to me during my transitional experience was this whole conversation of dimensions. A dimension is just a frequential level of awareness. First dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. The more aware you are, the more expansive your awareness is. We try and categorize things so it fits up here, but it's not a true depiction of that expansion and of that ascension. It's the more awareness you hold. I refer to it as like the aperture, opening the aperture of a camera. The more you open the aperture, more light comes in, more of what's in front of the camera is revealed, right? So this whole thing of different dimensions it's a again, human mind thinks linearly. She is going to expand into an expression that is beyond any of our imagining. I've been shown pieces that my own self can reveal due to the awareness I hold of my own people and how we function and how our existence is. Like the thing we have to remember, we know what's real by the fact that it is constantly changing and transforming. Nature shows us that. Due to our limited minds, we can't sit out here and look at the tree and watch it change. It would take a long time to see the seasons change. We can do it with a time-lapse camera and speed it up, but everything around us is in a constant state of transformation. That's why when humans try and fixate on something and call that the truth, well, it might have been for that instance, but right now it's not because it's already changed. And that's what the soul is trying to do, most importantly, is get humans to let go of those things that they think they know and the truths and beliefs they think they hold about what's real. It's just like the river. If you stood beside the river and held up your camera or your phone, whatever, and took a picture and said, okay, look, that's the river. Well, is it really? Because before you can even lower your camera, the water, everything has changed. That's reality.
Yeah, that's what
That is reality.
Heraclitus said that in ancient Greece. Okay, so what are you offering to people as help, and how are you helping people, and how can people get in contact with you?
So there are two services that I offer. One is a series. It's called Synthesis 111. And it is a series of 3 sessions. And it is facilitated with an instrument that was given to me by Star Being called the Synthesis Guidance System. And I have the painting of it and I use it here. I sit here at the table. I can do it in person or we can do it on Zoom. And what the synthesis guidance system does is it assists me in creating the vibrational state of being so that that person can do some of the things that I expressed to you, like going to that place, and on the ship, the young man on the ship that was thrown to the side because they had found what they needed, or the little boy, and heal those places. Because what happens when you heal them? The aperture of awareness broadens. You see more. And each time you heal something, that aperture of awareness opens up and opens up. And you see the reality of who you are. And all of those beliefs, it's as if they come undone. It's just that they dissipate and fall away. because those beliefs are what we call the veil that stand between our awareness. So that is the synthesis guidance system. And the other thing that I do is something called a soul painting. I have painted probably 70 or 80 of them in the past 5 or 6 years, each one as unique and storytelling as possible. And each painting tells the story of that person's soul, of their origins, of the reason they are here now, of as much wisdom as the soul feels that they need to receive. I have a conversation, I have a Zoom conversation with the person, and it's literally as if their soul just comes and sits here beside me, and as they're talking, begins to tell me their story. And it's not like you and I, it's vibrational. So images come, feelings come. Remember how it feels. That's why it was so important that I remember how all that of expansiveness and awareness felt, so that I could assist others by feeling their vibrational state of being, what is needed to assist them. So those are the two services that I offer. If a person wants to have other sessions beyond that, they're welcome to continue that work. But those are the two services I offer. And one is the synthesis guidance system in the series of 3. And there's 3 sessions take you. In the first session, we open the door. We come into the awareness of their own capacity. All of this is to empower them, to show them how to open the door. And in the second session, we walk through the doorway. We walk through the doorway to that place and let them step into the 3-year-old them that had something happen, that at some point during the journey, they took that on as a belief, and that's why they have blockages, or they cannot find peace in their life, or whatever it is that's going on. So we take them there and we flip the coin to the other side. Instead of seeing it from the ego's perspective, we allow them to see it from the perspective of the soul, to see the gift in that moment, to see the reality of it. And in the third session, they then learn how to take that awareness and interconnect with others in doing the same.
How can they contact you? Do you have an email or a website?
I do. They can contact me on Facebook at James Newman, just like you did, or I did with you. Or I have an email address that is alignmentlife11. Everything is about aligning with the soul. So it's all lowercase, alignment life, ALIGNMENTLIFE 11. alignmentlife11@gmail.com.
I want to thank you, James, for this interesting conversation. I really enjoyed it, and let's wait for the new Earth then.
We'll do that. Thank you so much, AJ. I really appreciate you allowing me to come here and speak with you today.
This has been the AJ Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.